Hello everyone, and welcome. Today this message is especially for those who are getting older, for those who live alone, for those who have lost loved ones, for those who spend long evenings in silence, and even for those who have spent an entire lifetime without thinking much about God. I want you to stop whatever you're doing for a moment and simply listen. This is not a message meant to scare you. This is not a message meant to judge you. This is a message that could change the direction of your life forever. There is one truth that every human being eventually faces. One truth that no amount of money, education, success, or denial can ever erase. One day, every one of us will take our final breath. No one knows when that day will come. It may be years from now. It may be tomorrow. It may even be tonight. And yet millions of people live as if death belongs to someone else. Millions of people say, "I'll think about God later." Millions of people say, "I still have time." Millions of people say, "Maybe when I'm older." But here's the question. What if later never comes? What if today is the day God is inviting you to open your heart? Because life has a way of moving faster than we expect. When we're young, we think we have forever. At 20 years old age seems impossible. At 30, life still feels long. At 40, we begin to notice time moving faster. At 50, we start attending more funerals than weddings. At 60, 70, and 80, many people begin to ask themselves questions they spent decades avoiding. What was the purpose of my life? Did I spend enough time loving others? Did I live for something bigger than myself? Did I know God? And perhaps the most important question of all, am I ready to leave this world? The truth is that many people are not because they are evil, not because they are bad people, but because they simply postponed their spiritual life for too long. They told themselves there would always be another day, another month, another year, another opportunity, and suddenly decades disappeared. Today, I want to talk about a mistake that millions of people make without realizing it, waiting until their last breath to find God. Because when that final moment arrives, things may not happen the way we imagine. Many people have a fantasy about death. They believe they will have plenty of warning. They believe they will have time to prepare. They imagine themselves peacefully lying in bed, surrounded by family members, with enough strength to say a final prayer. But reality doesn't always work that way. Life is unpredictable. A stroke can happen suddenly. A heart attack can happen unexpectedly. An accident can happen without warning. An illness can progress rapidly. And in some cases, people lose consciousness before they ever get the chance to speak. For decades, they postponed their relationship with God. Then one day, there was no more time left. This isn't meant to frighten you. It is meant to wake you up, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. One of the greatest deceptions people believe is this: I'll seek God when I am ready. But what if readiness never comes? Think about all the things you once said you would do later. Maybe you wanted to travel. Maybe you wanted to reconnect with family. Maybe you wanted to forgive someone. Maybe you wanted to say, "I love you." Maybe you wanted to pursue a dream. Years passed. Life became busy, and some of those opportunities disappeared forever. The same thing happens spiritually. Days become months. Months become years. Years become decades. And before you know it, life is nearly over. Some people spend an entire lifetime building wealth, but never building their soul. Some spend decades decorating their homes, but never preparing their hearts. Some carefully plan their retirement, but never plan for eternity. And that is a dangerous mistake, because retirement has an ending, but eternity does not. There is a silence that often arrives later in life. Many older adults know exactly what I mean. The children have grown up. The house becomes quieter. The phone rings less often. Friends pass away. The days become slower. And suddenly there is space to think. Real thinking, not the thinking we avoid when life is busy. Questions emerge, questions that money cannot answer, questions that television cannot answer, questions that distractions cannot answer. Who am I? Why was I here? What happens after death? Did God create me for a reason? These questions are not weaknesses. These questions are invitations. They may be God's way of knocking gently on the door of your heart. Unfortunately, many people ignore that invitation. They distract themselves. They say, "I don't want to think about death." But ignoring death never stops it from coming. Imagine a person who never visits a doctor because they don't want bad news. Would avoiding the doctor stop illness? No. The same is true spiritually. Ignoring eternity does not erase eternity. Ignoring God does not erase God. Many former atheists have described a surprising experience later in life. As they grew older, their certainty began to weaken. The questions they mocked in their youth returned. Some admitted they began to fear death. Others admitted they felt an emptiness that success could not fill. Some confessed that despite having accomplished everything society told them to pursue, they still felt incomplete. Because human beings are more than bodies. We are spiritual beings. Deep inside every human heart exists a desire for meaning, a desire for purpose, a desire for connection, a desire for hope. You may have ignored that voice for years, but it never completely disappears. Perhaps you're listening today because something inside you is searching. Maybe you've never been religious. Maybe you've spent years doubting. Maybe you've been angry at God. Maybe life has been unfair to you. Maybe you've suffered unimaginable losses. And perhaps you asked yourself, if God exists, why did these things happen? These are honest questions. Many people ask them. But pain should not become a wall that separates us from God. Sometimes pain becomes the doorway that brings us back to Him, because suffering has a strange way of revealing what truly matters. When we are healthy, we often feel invincible. When life is comfortable, we feel independent. But when we become vulnerable, we begin to understand how much we need grace. The older we get, the more we realize how fragile life truly is. One day you wake up and realize time is no longer moving slowly. Years pass in the blink of an eye. Birthdays come and go, seasons change, faces change, bodies change, strength fades, and eventually one question becomes unavoidable. Am I ready? Not financially, not socially, not professionally, spiritually. Are you ready? Because one day your body will stop working, but your story will not end there. Millions of people spend thousands of hours preparing for retirement. Few spend even 1 hour preparing for eternity. That imbalance should concern us. We insure our homes. We insure our cars. We protect our possessions, yet we neglect our souls. And the soul is the only thing we will carry beyond this life. Maybe today is not an accident. Maybe this video found you for a reason. Maybe God has been patiently waiting for years, not forcing you, not condemning you, simply waiting for you to say yes, waiting for you to stop running, waiting for you to stop postponing, waiting for you to trust Him. You do not need to become a perfect person. You do not need to know every verse in the Bible. You do not need to understand every theological question. God is not asking for perfection. He is asking for your heart. Some people believe they are too old. That is another lie. As long as you are breathing, there is still time. As long as your heart is beating, there is still hope. As long as you are alive, God's invitation remains open. The danger is not old age. The danger is delay, because delay slowly becomes habit, and habit eventually becomes a lifetime. Perhaps today is the day to stop delaying. Perhaps today is the day to pray. Perhaps today is the day to forgive someone. Perhaps today is the day to ask God for guidance. Perhaps today is the day to begin a new chapter, no matter how old you are, 60, 70, 80, 90. It is not too late. You may not be able to change your entire past, but you can change your future. And sometimes a single sincere prayer can change the entire direction of a person's final years. Imagine leaving this world not in fear, but in peace. Imagine lying down one day, knowing your soul is at rest. Imagine not being terrified of death anymore. Imagine knowing that your life had meaning. Imagine knowing that you are loved by your Creator, that peace cannot be bought, that peace cannot be earned, that peace comes from surrendering to God. One day your family will gather. One day your chair may become empty. One day your voice may no longer be heard. One day your earthly journey will end. But today you are still here. Today is still yours. Today is still a gift. Today is still an opportunity. Don't waste it. Don't wait until your last breath to find God, because no one knows when that last breath will come. Find Him today. Speak to Him today. Open your heart today. There is no age limit on grace. There is no expiration date on mercy. There is no deadline on hope while you are still alive. But none of us know how many tomorrows remain. So don't wait. If this message touched your heart, take a moment right now, close your eyes, and simply say these words. God, if you are there, I am listening. I have delayed for too long. I have been distracted for too long. I have been afraid for too long. Today I open my heart. Guide me. Forgive me. Give me peace. Help me finish this life with faith instead of fear. Help me walk toward eternity with hope instead of regret. And help me never wait until my final breath to seek you. Amen. Thank you for being here today. And remember this. It is never too late to find God, but tomorrow is never guaranteed. Don't wait until your last breath. Start today.